Two-Tone Miles here, and we've got a great show planned for today. We've got two great bands backing this show. On the intro track, you just heard Far From Home, off the Far From Home EP by Deals Gone Bad. Deals Gone Bad, they're out of Chicago. Now, their 2007 release, The Ramblers, it's easily on my own top 10 CD list. But I hadn't really had a chance to pick up Far From Home just yet. So in putting together this episode, I not only got to work with a band that I've got huge respect for, but I also had all the justification I needed to treat myself to some new music. And while I haven't had the privilege to see Deals Gone Bad play live, it seems like they might be headed out my way in the near future. And I'm really excited about that. So big thanks to Deals Gone Bad for letting me use their tracks. Later on in the show, we've got music by Void Union, so stick around for that. Let's talk some biology. Now, in my youth, the first ska CD I ever purchased was Losing Streak by Less Than Jake, which had an amazing side one, Automatic. And I'd like to dwell briefly on the opening lyrics. I think I know it all, but can I be sure of the things I've grown to know about? Let's think about that. How do you know what you know? Maybe you read it in a book, or on Wikipedia, or saw it on TV. Maybe a friend told it to you. Maybe some black and white Jake Blues-looking motherfucker told you on his YouTube channel. But how do you really know any of this is true? How do you prove you know what you know? See, science, it's all about hypothesis testing. You make an educated guess, a hypothesis, based on things you may already know to try and explain something you don't already know. You then set up an experiment to test the hypothesis, review the data, and then either confirm or deny your hypothesis. Now, today's show, we're going to take an example of hypothesis testing, and it comes from the field of plant pathology, the study of plant diseases. Now, in my own life, it was a course in plant pathology that made me want to work in plant sciences professionally. In the US alone, hundreds of millions of dollars are lost each year due to plant disease in crops. And worldwide, that figure is in the billions. And I've focused a good chunk of my career on making plants more resistant to disease. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the symptoms of plant disease. The leaves may look yellow or brown. The plant may be oozing sap. The plant may look wilted. There could be brown spots or black spots. There's plenty of symptoms. But anyone can look at a healthy plant versus a sick plant and immediately tell something's up. But figuring out what that something is takes some skill. See, how do you know the symptoms are truly caused by plant disease? Is what you're seeing the result of a virus, a bacteria, or a mold? Or is it something that's not biological? Maybe the plant didn't get water, or it's not getting enough of the right nutrients, or is damaged by a chemical such as an herbicide. So how do you know a disease is a disease? There are 4 simple rules for testing this, and they're called Koch's Postulates. Now, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but I've heard it pronounced Koch's, Koch's, and Cook's. So apologies to the great Robert Koch for probably pronouncing his name wrong. But Koch's Postulates, what are they? Well, Rule 1 is pretty basic. Rule 1 says the diseased organism has something that the healthy organism doesn't. So, again, Rule 1, the organism you think might be causing the disease is found in the sick organism, but not in the healthy one. So if the sick plant shows a lot of bacteria under a microscope, and a healthy one does not, you're on your way to saying that plant probably has a bacterial infection. If, however, both sick and a healthy plant have the same bacteria, then the bacteria is probably not causing the symptoms you're seeing. Basic rule Basically, Rule 1 means the sick plants have got a case of the somethings that the healthy ones don't have. And in the world of plants, it's important to remember that sometimes you get weird things growing inside of plants, such as epiphytes or endophytes or mycorrhizae, things that grow on or inside the plant that actually are beneficial. So it's important to remember that the sick plant may have something and that healthy plant doesn't have it. Now, rule number 2 says you need to be able to get a sample of that bacteria or fungus or whatever and be able to grow it in a laboratory, to be able to grow it in a culture. Now, being able to grow a culture takes some serious skill. You need to know what the disease needs in order to survive outside of the host, in order to grow a good culture. It takes a lot of skill, and I've got great respect for the people out there who make it look easy. Point is, it's possible to grow a bacteria or a mold in culture, but you can't exactly grow a nitrogen deficiency or a nutrient deficiency or lack of water. So rule number 2 says, rule number 2 helps separate out what may be caused by disease from what may be caused by the environment. Now, rules 3 and 4 are basically, can you make lightning strike twice? So up to this point, we have reason to believe we're dealing with a plant disease. We know the sick plants have something that the healthy plants don't, and we've got that something growing in a culture. So rule 3 is that you take what you have in culture and try to make a new infection. And if you're dealing with a plant disease, you'll see that the plant you infected gets sick from the infection. If the plant doesn't get sick, then it's probably something else causing the symptoms. The final rule, the 4th rule, is another lightning strike twice rule. So once you've infected a new host plant, you need to start a new culture from that new infection. And that culture needs to be identical to your first set of culture. Basically, you took it out of the original host plant, cultured it, infected a new host plant, took a culture out of that, and the two are the same. So you didn't change anything with the new infection. Okay, so this episode's gone on pretty long already. So we'll do a quick recap and get back to the music. So in order to follow Koch's postulates, 4 things need to happen. First, the sick plants have something the healthy ones don't. Second, you can take that something and grow it in a culture, in a laboratory. Third, you can take that culture and make new infections, produce new disease. And fourth, from those new infections, you get a new culture that's the same as the first. That's how you prove a plant disease is a plant disease, with a pretty straightforward set of rules. If at any point the chain breaks down and you can't satisfy all those rules, then you know the symptoms are probably being caused by something else, possibly an environmental factor. Anyways, I always thought Koch's postulates was a very interesting and a very straightforward example of hypothesis testing. So I hope you learned something today. So closing things out, we've got Mr. Big by the Void Union off their 2008 self-titled release. The Void Union, they're out of Boston, Massachusetts. They have just a real cool traditional sound. They're yet another band I haven't had the privilege to see live, but I have met a few of the individual band members, and they seem pretty chill. Anyways, I've talked long enough, so I'm just going to let you enjoy the music.
Hard for Mr. Big's pay. Yeah, come on. I do be do 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 do.